Welcome. Welcome to the Law, Your Money, and You. I'm Roberta Sapphire, an attorney in Sharon, Massachusetts, New England.
Hi, I'm Camille Barron. I'm a financial coordinator and healthcare advisor, also in Sharon, Massachusetts. And Roberta, today we are going to be talking about safety from all kinds of hazards, fire and other types of hazards that our fire department responds to every day.
Absolutely, and we are so excited to have with us Fire Chief Michael Madden with a nice smile. Is that Irish?
It sure is.
Yeah, okay, the Irish are really getting around here today. Anyway, we thank you. We thank you for your service. We thank you for the whole department service, and we thank you for being here today. And we want you to know that this is not just in the town of Sharon, but this is going to go all over. So we want to find out, is it the same for Sharon? Is it the same for Sharon, Vermont, Sharon, Illinois, Sharon, everything? Welcome and thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
And we always start out with, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Michael Madden. I currently live in Foxborough. I started my career in the fire service back in 2000 with the Milford Fire Department in Massachusetts. I worked there for 7 years, transferred to Walpole Fire Department because I grew up in Walpole. And after a few years in Walpole, I ended up in Sharon. So I've been with Sharon for the last 14 years. I've made it from firefighter to captain to deputy to now the fire chief for the past 4 months.
And congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that.
Thank you.
Congratulations. They're lucky to have you.
Yeah, so I've been involved in public safety even prior to that. Since 3 days after graduating high school, I went into EMT school. So
Wow.
this really goes back to 1992 that
No
I've been
kidding.
involved
Boy.
in
Very
public
good.
safety.
Well, that's exactly why we invited you, because obviously preventing fires is what people always think about, or putting out fires is what people think about when they think about the fire department, but there's so many other services. It's much broader than just fires. Let's start with this. The first responders, they can actually save a life, literally save a life. Can you tell people what they do and how do they get people to be safe?
Sure. So Sharon Fire Department is lucky. The town currently on the fire department, we employ 31 out of 32 people are paramedics.
Oh,
So
that
we
is-
staff 3 ALS ambulances. We have an ALS engine. An ALS engine means that they have, and ambulance means they have the ability to give cardiac medications. They can do airway procedures, intubation, treat all kinds of different various illnesses, medicals, trauma-related calls. So there's a wide variety of what they can do in the ambulance. And this has really gone leaps and bounds from other services that don't have paramedics, where they can just do basic life support stuff, which is bandaging. So our medics have a lot higher level of care that they can give to patients. Essentially, it's a rolling ER without a doctor.
No kidding, really?
That's
Now, as a first
fantastic.
responder, they're the ones who show up when somebody has an emergency at
Is
home.
that just from the fire department, first responders?
Well, in this town, so generally throughout in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you typically have fire departments that run first responder level services. Some have private ambulance companies that do the EMS transporting of the patients, and then you have other police departments that might have an ambulance associated with them, like Berkeley, Massachusetts, for example. Their ambulance is run by the police department, not the fire
You
department.
ever meet with other parts of the country or New England and see what they're doing and keep up that way?
Yeah, I used to be heavily involved in the union, so I traveled all across the
That's
country
something.
talking to different members of different fire departments everywhere.
That's fascinating.
Massachusetts is pretty good. We're progressive. We're behind the times in some aspects, and you see some transition happen that usually starts out in California, Seattle area, because they're really good out in Seattle,
Really?
and it kind of makes its way east. That doesn't mean you're not getting the same care. It's just they might be able to administer different medications than we're allowed to.
Isn't that fascinating?
You know, about a month ago, we had to call 911 because my husband had a seizure of some sort. What happened was he was sitting on the couch watching TV, and all of a sudden, he just blanked out. He was unconscious. You know this.
remember
He was
that.
unconscious, and I tried to wake him up, and nothing worked. So I called, and the first responders came, and they did something. I don't know what they gave him or what they did, but they woke him up. What is that kind of thing that they would probably have used?
Well, first off, I hope when you called 911 and not,
I did.
okay, good.
Yes, I
Not
called
what?
911.
Always, in any emergency, always call 911.
Yes.
Don't try to call the local fire department,
No.
police department.
Mm.
911 is the best way to get in touch with
Yeah.
emergency
Is there
services.
another number they're talking now? Another one?
Not an emergency number. There are a few for suicide hotlines and
Oh,
information, I think, but 911 is primarily emergency only.
Yeah.
But they could have, there could have been, I'm not sure exactly what they gave your husband, I wasn't there.
Of course.
If he was having a seizure, they could give him a benzodiazepine to stop the seizure. If it was a diabetic issue, they could have been giving him sugar. So I'm not really sure, but they're trained to treat all levels of
I got
illnesses.
the impression they might have
Stabbed him?
physically done something.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I don't know. Whatever it was, it did wake him up, thankfully. And
give a nice smile.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, and so everything turned out okay. But
Excellent.
it was
Thank
scary
you.
because if they hadn't done that, he probably would have died. He was out of it, and that would have been very bad. So I was
Oh,
totally
yeah.
impressed with their service, and then the people took him to the hospital in an ambulance, and not to the ER, and they were fine too. But it's just a real relief to know that we have that kind of service here.
Hmm.
I know
That's
every
wonderful.
department has it everywhere.
I wasn't even aware of all the people you had on there.
And what other things do you have there? What are the services that are helpful to the community and helps keep people safe?
So a lot of it is, a lot of it happens behind closed doors, so to speak, but we have all kinds of different programs. Our fire prevention division is heavily involved in reviewing all building permits, renovations to homes. Sales of homes requires an inspection so that the next
Right.
people coming in, have working smoke alarms and CO detectors. We have a whole SAFE program that we have safe educators that go out and teach students fire safety. They've also kind of rolled in senior safe, they call it now. So we're going out to Council on Aging and having seminars with some of our senior population where they're teaching them some home safety tricks and so that they don't trip and fall with mats and rugs and
Oh, that's
cooking
interesting.
safety. So there's all kinds of programs that we're currently doing.
How about carbon monoxide poisoning for the people who have no sense of smell?
Yeah, well, carbon monoxide doesn't have an odor, so you'd never know it was there.
Oh,
So what you usually get say it's an issue with an oil-fired furnace, is you'd get kind of the incomplete combustion is what causes carbon monoxide. You might get some blowback of soot, but typically carbon monoxide has no
Really?
odor at all. So it's very important to have working carbon monoxide alarms in your home. And they should be one on each level of your home, habitable
that's
floors,
fascinating.
and then within 10 feet of your bedroom doors. So if it goes off at night, you'll be alerted to it.
I remember, it was years ago, New Year's Eve, I came home, it was after midnight, this was before I was married, and there's this alarm going off. Now, this was a house I had just recently bought, so I wasn't familiar with everything. So the alarm is going off, and I'm thinking it might be the fire alarm. And they came, the fire department came, and they said, no, this is this carbon monoxide detector. And anyway, my daughter was sleeping in the room. This was a split level, and she had kind of the basement floor for her
Was
own
this
room.
in
It
New
was finished.
Hampshire? Because I know you were in New Hampshire.
No,
No.
it wasn't. In Rhode Island when I lived
Rhode
there.
Island.
And anyway, they said this alarm could have saved your daughter's life
Mhm.
because she was sleeping in a room, and she would, it didn't have
Yeah.
any odor or any warning.
Right.
He said, you're very fortunate that this happened because she could have died. by
Right.
inhaling that. It's very dangerous, isn't
Mhm.
it?
It is. It is.
I'm
You know,
trying to
it's
think of something that went off that I smelled from the basement.
An
And
alarm of
yeah,
some
an
sort?
alarm. I was the only one who smelled it, so it wasn't carbon monoxide. But I remember when those smoke alarm laws went in. That was a long time ago because
It was.
when they came out, we got them. I was always like to get the latest thing out. I bet you that was that like in 1980? Right around there?
Pre-1975.
Yeah,
Hmm.
right around. Yeah.
Is when it-
70.
So smoke
Yeah.
alarms coincide with the building code. So
Yeah,
prior
with the
to
building code.
1975, there was really no building code.
Yeah, the American Disabilities. Is it something to do with the American Disabilities Act here on these
For the smoke
the
alarms,
smoke alarms?
I don't believe so. There are different smoke alarms for people with disabilities. So they'll have
Oh.
lights instead of the sounders, or you can get things that tie into beds, which make the bed shake.
Mm-hmm.
If your smoke alarm goes off,
Really?
that might be
That's-
what you're thinking of. But
That's
typically,
fascinating.
the smoke alarms are, smoke alarms, we could have an entire show here, probably double the time today, just talking about smoke alarms, because there's a lot about it, and it's based on the year of your home.
Oh, what,
which-
they're only
which
good
kind
for
you-
10 years or something?
Yeah,
See, I told you to interrupt.
Right.
They're only good for 10 years?
Correct. They're only good for 10 years.
Meanwhile, you can buy a new one in the store, and 2 years down the road, when you go to put it up, you can find, oh my God, this is already 10 years old.
Yeah, and it happens. It's not something that a lot of people pay attention to. So that's part of
You have to look at the
what we're trying to
dates.
do now is get the message out. And now they're coming with the sealed batteries. So once you activate it, the battery lasts for 10 years. And if you hear the chirp, then it has to be replaced. Sometimes they do fail, but typically right now you could take a battery out and put in your remote control for your TV and not put your smoke alarm back up. Now you don't have that option because the battery's built right into the smoke alarm, so you
Oh.
can't take it out anymore.
We just changed a battery in one of them.
Yeah, there's still versions that have batteries, but the current model is to get
Really?
away from anything with a replaceable battery.
So the people who go and they load up on the smoke alarms that are on sale and everything, they better check them out because they may not be current anymore.
Current, so you're the king of your own castle, so to speak, in your house, so you can have anything in there that you desire. However, if you go to sell your house and you need a 26F inspection is what it's called, it's a Mass General law that is.
26F?
Yeah, 26F is in Frank,
Oh,
so that's a Mass
26F.
General law.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to sell your home, you need a
Yeah,
certificate
you-
of completion that you had your smoke inspectors and your smoke detectors inspected. In order to comply with that,
Right.
you have to have the right device. So you might go to the local hardware store or wherever and buy a handful of smoke alarms, but they might not be the right ones. They'll still
Right.
work, but you're better off either contacting your local fire department to find out what
A week before you're supposed to pass, or
the-
before then?
the certificate's good for 60 days
Oh,
in
that's good,
Massachusetts,
yeah.
so you can do it in advance. But even if you're not selling your home and you want to replace your alarms, you certainly call the fire department and make sure you're buying the best models you can, because there's different sensors in them. Like I
Oh,
said, we
interesting.
could talk about smoke alarms for an hour
Yeah.
and explain it, but it's not something that if you're not dealing with every day, it's not something that is really going to make a lot of sense.
There are a lot of them that are plug-in batteries and then wires. Which do you think?
So it's based on the year your house was built. So anything
Oh.
pre-1975 is battery only. Anything after between 1975 and then there's other iterations after that. 2097 it changed, 2007 it changed, 2011 it changed again. Anything after 97 has to be hardwired, 1997 that your house was built. Or if you do a major renovation, if you add a bathroom, even though your house was built in 1850, but say you added another bedroom, that could kick the code where you'd have to upgrade the entire house.
Interesting.
Speaking of the house built in 1850, does the Historical Commission have anything to do with the fire department?
I'm not going to answer that question.
That's another whole, we just did a show on that. In fact, Dave Martin, and I know he won't mind me mentioning his
Retired
name.
firefighter
Yeah,
Dave Martin.
he was wonderful.
Yeah.
He was wonderful. When my grandchildren used to come to visit, this is when your fire station was the old fire
The old one,
station.
yeah.
I'd go down there and I'd go, oh, Roberto, who you got now? And they go, oh, they want to see the fire department. Always nice. Do you like, you're in a new building. I don't
Yeah,
know
very-
how new
yeah.
it is anymore.
There's one more thing I want to follow up on
Oh, go
smoke
ahead.
alarms. So with the recent explosion of Amazon, where everybody's buying anything under the sun, people are buying smoke alarms on Amazon. I would
Really?
strongly suggest against it, because what's happening is people are buying smoke alarms that are coming in from different countries, China, for example, and they're not UL listed. The thing with the United States code is they're all tested under the UL laboratory to make sure that that the components are all
What did
there.
UL stand for?
United Laboratories.
Oh,
They're a testing facility. There's a whole bunch of them around.
that's
But they test all smoke
fascinating.
alarms. So if you buy a
Really?
smoke alarm on Amazon and you don't know exactly what you're looking for, you could buy something that might be a knockoff. It might be allowed in a different country, but we don't know here in the United States whether it's actually going to pass the testing that UL would certify that
That's a
that
good
alarm
thing, a
for.
good
So
caution.
So buy
be
made
very
in
careful
USA.
buying
Yeah.
anything like that. That goes along with cell phone chargers, all these lithium battery issues,
And
which I
that's-
think we're going to get
Yeah,
to.
I wanted to mention that because we know someone who left her phone charging upstairs in the house all night, and there was a fire up there because of
Mhm.
that. Tell us a little
Really?
more about lithium batteries.
So
Yeah.
lithium batteries aren't necessarily dangerous, but what happens is, again, the batteries are designed to take a certain charge, certain milliamp, certain voltage with the wall unit that you buy, or that comes with the device. Now it doesn't even come with the device, you have to buy it separately. But what people are also doing on Amazon and other, avenues to purchase items is they're buying the cheapest version. Apple's version is going to be more expensive, but it's designed specifically for that model phone, which gives it the correct power. So if you overcharge a lithium ion battery, it's going to overheat, and then what goes into a thing called thermal runaway, and that's when you have the fires. That's what you see in New York City right now with the scooters. A lot of them are
Really?
being overcharged. Some of them aren't listed batteries, some of the causes, but a lot of it is the charging. My stepson got one of those scooter things for Christmas one year. I wouldn't let him charge it in the house
I don't blame you. No.
just because of that risk, because you don't know
Yeah.
where these things are coming from.
Good call.
And you even see that happening sometimes when people have laptops and they bring them on a flight, the airplane. Do they restrict those now
Yeah,
No,
no
I
lithium
know.
batteries can go
I
in,
don't know what
in the
this
main
here.
cabin or on?
they can't go under, they
Every
can't
now
be in
and
check
then, this one
bags.
says it's overheated, let it cool down before I use it.
Yeah,
And I bought this at Costco, I paid a lot of money for it.
yeah, and you should only charge it when it needs to be charged. It should never just sit on the charger,
Right, doesn't it?
because you're just overheating, you could potentially overheat the battery. Same with cell phones and,
Yeah, you can't leave it
you
in
know.
the car on a hot day. What am I, this thing weighs a ton. Never should have got it,
Now,
too heavy.
let's move on to heat waves.
Which we're in now.
yeah, we're coming upon it.
Yes, everywhere in the country, it seems, is under a heat wave. Some places have been over 100 degrees for how many days? Like Phoenix, for example?
Yeah, my daughter's in Arizona. They just, it's just another heat wave. What is it? They're breaking a record.
Yes.
Is it a month
Yes.
now?
Maybe.
Almost a
Yeah,
month.
consecutive days over 110
Yeah.
or something like that. Yeah,
The
I saw
water
it
in
on the
Florida
news.
is reaching 100 degrees.
It's over, 101.
But you talk to these people who live there and they go, well, we're in all day. We're in all day, so it doesn't bother us.
As long as they have air conditioning.
Yeah.
Right.
So it isn't just the heat itself, but the weather patterns are changing. There's floods, fires, heat. But in terms of human safety, the extreme heat is very bad. Can you tell us what some of the things are that happen to people when they get overheated?
Well, the primary one would be dehydration.
I'm dehydrated all the time.
Drink some more water.
Yeah, you do.
So that's really the prime, we're not used to being outside, you look at the landscapers, the physical laborers that are
Yeah,
out
they
there all
do
the
it.
time, and they're kind of accustomed to the weather, so they can work a little bit better.
Little kids too,
Yeah.
it's too hot for them.
Right, yeah, it's going to be real hot the next couple of days. I've already seen some communities starting to open up cooling centers. We're probably going to activate ours, which is, either the public safety building or the community center.
The public
Council on
safety
Aging.
building, that's the police building.
Police and
yeah.
fire, yep.
Yeah. What's the difference? I just want to know, what new things in your new fire department do you have that you didn't have in the old one?
Oh,
Is it
lots,
just
space.
Space.
So our old fire station, you couldn't open up 2 trucks at the same time, 2 doors. You'd have to let one person in, close the door,
It's like
and
our
then the other
garage.
person. Yeah, it's like a 2-car
just kidding.
garage that's
Yeah.
a little tight. So we have
Really?
the space, the living quarters, there was a lot of thought in design in fire stations especially, because we're living there 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So whether it's the diesel exhaust capture system, which takes the exhaust right out of the building instead of going through the building. So there's a lot of different benefits, health benefits. We now have different alerting systems, so at night,
Isn't that
the
wonderful?
bells and the alarms don't just go off, things kind of ramp up and lights come on slowly. Because we found over years of working in the fire service that we can get called out at a moment's notice, and when that alarm hits, then it jolts you. So we're finding that that's not good for your health, it's not good for your heart. So there's all kinds of different things, and that station has all that kind of safety equipment. Plus we have a training tower inside, so on
Isn't that
hot,
wonderful?
humid days, they can actually do training without being exposed to the elements.
Yeah.
And really, that's the thing, back to that original question is, when you know it's going to be hot, humid like this, if you can, obviously stay hydrated, drink lots of water. If you can do it the night in advance, it's even better.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And, try to limit your exposure to the sun. Stay in the shade, try to find a cooling center if something happens.
We have one of our great workers there. Every day she sits in that sun. I said, I don't think that's good for you. She said, no, I'm working on my tan. I says, well, you're already 10 shades darker. I'm worried about her.
Yeah, yeah. Well, good reason to. But I'm mostly concerned about the elderly people because they're the ones who can have serious emergencies
Right,
in the heat.
yep.
Is there a difference between heat stroke and heat exhaustion?
There is.
I never heard it put that way.
Heat stroke is just a more severe form of it. So if you get exposed longer, you're going to go into heat stroke versus exhaustion. Exhaustion's when you're going to be real sweaty, you're going to not feel great. If you get into heat stroke, you're essentially at the point where you stop sweating. So now your body can't release the heat. And that's when you really get into trouble. And that's when you can have different seizure activities, stuff like that, that's more permanent
boy.
in nature. So yeah, on days that we're coming up on this,
How about
by all means,
healthy
if you can
people
limit
that
it.
never had a problem like that before? Are they still suspect?
Absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't change. We had, healthy people work out and then pass out because of the heat if they're out training in the sun, in the weather. It happens to high school students training for athletics now. The Patriots players just started practicing again this week.
They had a problem with one of the Patriots.
Yeah, so it's, and they have team doctors and physicians and athletic trainers, and they are professional athletes, and it still happens to them. So the average citizen, of course it can happen to them.
Yeah.
So you just got to be aware. You have to know and plan your day out, try to do stuff either in the morning before it gets too hot or in the evening when it's starting to
Or
cool off
just
a
stay in
little
bed
bit.
all day and sleep.
Yeah, and if for some reason you don't have air conditioning and it gets too hot, like I said, there's other avenues. You can certainly call the fire department, whether we can get you to a cooling center, to get you out of the heat would,
Don't they
be
use the fire
beneficial.
department or is it the police department for emergency? Like if they're closed up, like there's times when there's no electric.
yeah, so we
no
can
heat.
use the public safety building as a emergency shelter.
Oh, that's
Um,
good.
We have a training room on the ground floor that seats about 40, 50 people. We can actually move tables out of the way, and we have chairs, and if people need to come in and charge their cell phones because power's out, or if they want to cool off on a hot day, or warm up on a cold night.
Yeah, those are beautiful
know.
buildings.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and we're open 24 hours a day.
Yes.
So,
Oh, really?
oh, yeah.
How about coffee?
I'm sure they could make some for you if you showed up.
Yeah, right.
But coffee on a hot day, not good, because coffee dehydrates you.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
water,
It's
water,
water.
Gatorade.
Okay.
Try
all
to
right.
avoid caffeine, alcohol, that kind of stuff.
Is there any relation or any danger for people coming from the wildfires, coming from Canada?
Oh,
Yeah, I know
yes,
it's
yes,
been
we
kind of
hear that.
frightening with the air quality. You know, different cities, I think New York got hit, was one of the
That was one
hardest
of them,
ones.
yeah.
You know, but the density of New York, the weather, everything, they don't have the cleaner air, so to speak, that, you know, somebody up in the Northeast does.
Yeah.
You know, so, yeah, if you have any kind of a respiratory issue and you know that it's gonna be around, again, I would avoid strenuous activity, you know, or anything like that. If you're in asthmatic and, you know, COPD patient or emphysema, yeah, you should try to avoid it. Overall, I don't believe that there's many health effects from it. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I'm a fire chief. I don't think
Well-
that there's any kind of long-term effects from it. It's,
Oh, the
you know,
smoke.
I think Canada's gonna need the winter to get some snow on the ground to stop it.
Yeah.
Boy.
You can check the air quality. There are a
Yep.
couple of phone apps that you can download, and you can check to see what the air quality in your
Yep.
area is.
Yeah, and if you have access to the internet, you don't, you know, you can do it. If you just type in Massachusetts air quality, it'll give you a rating. We actually, during open burning season, we have to check that before we allow people to burn in their backyards, their brush. Because if the hot, humid days, the smoke's not gonna move around as good. So those days, we wouldn't allow it.
Now, we're getting close to winding up, but we want to make sure that we cover the feature now that is online from the fire department called Community Connect. Can you tell our viewers about that?
I'd be more than happy to. So it's a great program. We just switched to a full reporting software which comes with this. It's by a company called First Due. But Community Connect, what it does, it allows each citizen in the town of Sharon to go on the website. You can go right through the town's website, go to the fire department page. We have a link there. And what it allows you to do is you create an account for your own home. So within that account, and it's bank encrypted software that's protecting this thing, the police department doesn't have access to it, just the fire department. So if there was any kind of an incident, we do not share with the police. Even though we have a great relationship with the Sharon Police Department,
Sure.
we do not share
Is
it.
that just here, or is it in other towns?
There are
in
other
the
communities
States?
going to it where we were one of the
Really?
first around here. I think Westboro was the first in Massachusetts that had it.
Really?
And what does it do? What are the,
So what
does-
you do is you create an account, you enter into your information. What you can do is you can list contact phone numbers, you can list pets, family members living in the house, if there's people with mobility issues, physically disabled. All that information can get listed into the program.
Fantastic.
And then if we have to respond to your home for whatever reason, as soon as that address gets loaded into our system, that's in all the fire trucks and on our phones, that information will pop up. So it would have contact information. So even, for example, the fire alarms go off in your house and you're not home, you're on vacation. We go to your house, we could actually call you and say, hey, we're here at your house, the fire alarms are going off. And just to let you know that there might not be anything going on, because we don't want to break people's doors down and stuff like that, but we would have all this information at hand. You can list, you know, where your utility shutoffs are, how many kids are
Fascinating.
sleeping, where the kids are sleeping in the house. So if you do have a true emergency, we'll have that immediately, which has never been done before.
That's
All of our
fantastic.
information used to just be on a piece of paper. We'd have to flip through a book.
Absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
You need,
And this
you
is
need
all-
another one. We haven't even touched on businesses that people,
The businesses can create an account as well. It's not just residents, it's any property in the town. So we've GIS'd the entire community. So on our computers, every property in the town of Sharon has an association.
I hate to say it, we have to wrap up.
Well, it's a
Yeah.
good time to wrap up because
Yeah, this is
that's a
wonderful.
valuable service.
Yeah,
Yes,
and we'd love to see more
valuable.
people sign up. If they have any questions, they can certainly call and ask, speak to me or Deputy Greenfield, who's in charge of this program.
It's great.
And we'll
Excellent.
mention it again on another show, too. to
Sure.
Let them know.
Thank you very much, Chief.
You're very
Yes,
welcome.
thank
Thanks
you.
for having me.
There's so much more that we could
Yeah,
cover.
we could go on forever, couldn't we?
Maybe we'll have you
Yeah,
come back.
Bravo, yeah, thank
That
you
would be
so
nice.
much.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for
Yes.
watching. We hope you enjoyed this. Please let us know if you have any questions, or let us know if you have any other thoughts about other topics we could cover in future shows. Because remember, this is your show, the law,
Yeah,
your money,
and
and
you.
you.